The following episode may contain adult themes and language. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to History and Mystery in Kansas City, the history podcast about all things unsolved and unexplained in Kansas City and the surrounding areas. I'm Laura.
And I'm Tahlia.
And today we're talking about Big Bertha.
Big Bertha Gifford.
She is probably Missouri's first serial killer.
Yeah. This is a weird one. We've been planning this for 4 weeks. A lot has happened. It's been a show.
Yeah. I got my cabinets almost done. One more door.
Yeah, and then just a lot of other fun things.
Little tiny bits and pieces to touch up.
I went to a ball.
Yeah.
That was fun, yeah. You know, but none of that's more important than Big Mama Bertha here. Big Bertha Gifford.
She was born Bertha Alice Williams in 1874 in Morse Mill, Missouri, which is southwest of St. Louis.
I was just about to ask.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
When did she die?
I don't know.
She died August 20th of 1951.
Oh, okay. Well,
She
I probably have it later down in my notes.
Oh.
But
Here I am trying to tag team this year with you. Because my brain is just so fried. We even talked about how we were going to do this. And for the life of me, that was like 4 minutes ago. And my brain has already...
we didn't really come to a conclusion.
Oh, okay.
We didn't really come up with a plan. So we're just, I don't know.
We're kind of winging it.
Winging it, yeah.
But we're back, baby. We're back.
She married a man named Henry Graham, and they had one daughter. This marriage didn't last, though, because she accused Henry of having an affair, and she started an affair with a man named Eugene Gifford, a man 10 years younger than her.
Wow.
And then while she's still married, she was still married, she was having the affair, and all of a sudden Henry, her husband, comes down with pneumonia. And then dies, and Bertha collects his life insurance money. Then she married Jean a year later.
You know, at least she gave herself some mourning time.
Yeah, whole year.
A whole year. That's some grieving right there.
I mean, I don't know.
Your shrugs. You're like, you know.
I mean,
yeah.
If he really loved her, he wouldn't want her to be lonely.
That's true. Hey,
Get on with your life.
Get on.
Or,
I mean, no, I was being serious. That's some serious grieving time. It wasn't like she just immediately went to this new guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good on her.
Good on her. She gave herself some actual time to like psychologically grieve.
But she might have done that for public perception too.
I mean, everything we do is for public perception, so I suppose you might be right.
Well, who knows? This is...
she knows.
Forever ago. Who cares?
No.
But... then they moved to Catawissa, Missouri, which is 16 miles north of Morse Mill, Missouri. Gene ran the farm, and he made moonshine. It was said that he was easygoing and well respected in the community.
I'm just going to come out and say this. I'm not seeing any of this in my research.
Oh. It's probably just because that book I read.
That's fair. What was the name of that book?
Oh, God, I got to scroll all the way down here.
Oh, you were going to do it later.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's okay.
No, you're...
It's called The Tainted Legacy of Bertha Gifford, a memoir, and it's by S.K. Murphy, and she is the great-granddaughter of Big Bertha.
Hey, there you go.
I don't know why we keep calling her Big Bertha. I don't know if she was big or not, but...
because of the name. Bertha. It's a big name. Big personality.
It is.
Hey. And if I remember correctly, spoiler alert, I mean, this story happened years ago, but spoiler alert if this is the first time of you hearing it, wasn't she also like a healer?
She was a volunteer nurse.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
That's the reason why I looked up the other thing I looked up.
Oh, okay. She was known for being a good cook, and she always took care of the ill people in town. So her house was always full of sick people. She, between the years of 1906 and 1927, 17 people died in her home.
Jeez.
Yeah. It does need to be noted that back in those days, there were no antibiotics. Refrigerators were not common, and people did die of things that can easily be cured now. And also, Dr. Hemker, he was the town doctor. He would give patients arsenic and strychnine to his patients as well. It's kind of like back in the day whenever we were talking about the Swope murders.
Yep.
Because that guy was a doctor, and he would also prescribe arsenic and strychnine for certain things.
Yeah.
It's crazy that they used that back in the day for medicine.
What a callback.
Yeah. Every time a person would become ill, they would go to Bertha's house to be taken care of, and Dr. Hemker would be called, and he would leave the medicine, quote unquote, and instructions to Bertha to administer to the patients.
Hey. And she was saving lives. She was saving
knows how
lives
many
before.
Right, and who knows how many actually lived. I mean,
Probably
she took care of
a ton more than...
Exactly. She took care of the whole town.
Yeah, I mean, probably no more than a regular doctor's, Katie.
I know. It would be fascinating to know, like, what Dr. Hemker's death rate is.
I mean, doctors back then, their death rates were just atrocious in general. They're like, "Oh, you have the flu? We need to amputate. We need to amputate."
Or we need to do some bloodletting.
Yeah.
Some leeches.
Get some leeches.
Some arsenic.
You'll
be right as rain.
You have a rash on your arm? Get the leashes. The leeches. And the leashes. We'll smack you with the leashes while the leeches eat you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So
what a time to be alive.
The first person to become suspicious was Dr. Hemker, which is odd to me because he's the one that's leaving...
He's the one supplying her.
Supplying the medicine.
I wonder if she pissed him off somehow.
Right. Don't know. He became suspicious when Ed Brindley died because he noticed that there was a pattern. He consulted with a few doctors, but they could not be sure it was intentional poisoning, so Dr. Hemker dropped it. He could have requested an inquest and autopsies, but he didn't. He did say that he feared that he would be sued for libel. So that's why he didn't take anything any further.
But here's the question. If you're a doctor...
Yeah.
And you're seriously concerned that there's this person who's killing other people, wouldn't you want to
that
do
you
the
provided
autopsies?
medicine for?
Exactly.
Especially.
You'd want to provide the autopsies.
Right.
Unless you're trying to hide something and
Yeah.
you're trying to find someone to pin it on.
Right.
Because here's the other factor. You're the one that supplied her with the poison. How would a jury know that you were not the one that told her to do it? Mm-hmm. And without even telling her to do it, just, hey, put a little extra in.
And this comes into play later because she does buy her own poison. But back in the day, they used strychnine and arsenic as medicine. So who's to say she meant to kill people? She might have been just putting a little extra in to make them better faster.
Yeah.
You know,
And
people were ignorant about medication back in the day.
And poisons. Well, less poisons. People knew poisons. But, like, at the same time, like, especially with how well known at this time poisons would be, especially since there was an influx. I want to say it was like in the mid 1800s when women were starting to kill their husbands with poison.
Yeah, sounds about right.
People knew.
Yeah.
Like, it was well known. So if she were to kill someone using poison, wouldn't she want to use something less traceable than the thing that's being supplied to her?
Right. Or just give them a little bit extra and then blame it on the doctor. The doctor prescribed arsenic, and that's what I gave him, and that's why he died.
That's how much I gave
arsenic.
him. Yeah. And then, or even just not giving them the arsenic, as much as the arsenic as they would need, and just letting them die, which would be far more treacherous, I feel. The reason why that is because imagine the pain that the people would be in during that time. It'd be like stretching out their death sentence.
To not give them arsenic?
To give them less. Like if it was supposed to help them.
Oh, so they die slower death,
Yeah.
more painful. I see what you mean.
Versus just killing them off with the arsenic quick and easy. Well, not quick and easy, but painlessly.
I mean...
Well, maybe we'll find out what the...
It sounds like it wrecks your guts and you just...
Well, I mean, I can tell you I got it pulled up.
There you go.
But
it's horrible.
we can pull that up actually later.
What's the word?
Gastrointestinal?
Yeah, gastrointestinal distress.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of whenever they would get their death certificates, that's what Dr. Hemker would put. It was like just acute gastrointestinal distress.
Jeez. Yeah. And I can go more into arsenic here in a little bit, but...
Okay. Ed's widow, her name was Ludelphia Brinley. She was not scared of Gifford, though. So she convinced the prosecuting attorney, Frank Jenny, to investigate her husband's death. Jenny had the body of Ed Brinley exhumed, and the autopsy showed no disease, but that he had been poisoned by arsenic. The drugstore records showed that Bertha had purchased arsenic the same day that Brinley died.
Suspicious.
Yes.
Okay. That I will say.
But
you're not helping your case.
And I might I might say this later on, I can't remember, but she had bought arsenic at the drugstore before every death. That's the pattern that they were seeing. They were like, every time she goes to the store, and she would say, it's for the rats in the barn.
So she's lying too.
I mean, maybe she did have rats in the barn, although someone later during the investigation went to the barn and said it didn't look like there was any rats. But that was what she said. So she would
also,
say,
how do you give it to rats? You just put it in a bowl and hope they drink it?
I guess. Mix it up with some kind of food. I don't know.
That's a good idea.
But so she's saying it's for rats, and she's going to the drugstore and buying a shit ton of arsenic, and then what do you know? Her patient dies.
Bada bing, bada boom, she dead. One thing led to another. There was a little arsenic. Next thing you know, they're dead.
Bertha was indicted by a grand jury where they heard several witnesses from the victims' families, and Bertha threatened to sue witnesses and the journalists who covered the case, and so the case was dropped.
Okay.
They were all scared of Bertha Gifford.
For just poisoning them all?
Well, I don't know if it was that or being sued, because she was threatening to sue and all that stuff. And her husband did have good standing in the community, and so they were scared of her for that.
Yeah, that's actually a good reason to be scared.
Frank Jenny did not quit, though, and 8 months later, she was indicted a second time. Jenny showed the jury a correlation between victim deaths and when Bertha bought arsenic at the drugstores. Every time she made an arsenic purchase, she would always say it was to poison the barn rats. And then shortly thereafter, someone would die. However, Dr. Hemker was known to use arsenic and strychnine as medical treatments, so perhaps she was giving it to them thinking it would actually help, or maybe she did not know that Dr. Hemker had arsenic in his medication already. We don't know, and there's no records.
Although, if he's leaving her notes and instructions.
Yeah, but it might just be give them 2 tablespoons a night, not, hey, this is arsenic,
One would think that would be passed on, though.
You would think.
Anything is possible.
I mean,
nowadays, anything is possible.
I'm sure
it's a new world.
They could probably solve it a lot easier now, but since this was done so long ago and doctors used poisons, I mean, yeah, this is a really strange case. And I kind of see both sides, and I don't know who I don't know what the intentions of anyone was. So it's kind of hard to say if she was actually guilty or if the doctor was actually the negligent one.
It's very possible that they both were.
Yeah, it could be.
You know,
But what did they have to gain?
Less people that they have to heal.
But that means less money. That's your...
Not necessarily. If you think about it, like, you kill them, you get the money that they paid you in advance, right? Or that's how that worked back in the day, right? Like, they pay you in advance.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then you don't have to do anything. And then, if you team up with whoever the coroner is, boom, you get a cut of that.
I would think, like, you would be wanting, or maybe the Dr. Hemker was giving them a little bit of arsenic to keep them sick, to keep getting paid. And then Bertha was like, oh, I'll just give you a little bit to help you out, make you feel better. And she's the one that just tipped the edge, tipped the bucket, and made it too much.
Bananarama, I think you'd be right.
Maybe. I don't know. Where was I at?
That is just... That's a banger, man. That's a doozy.
Oh, and Bertha testified that Dr. Hemker drank too much, and she stated that he should not be practicing medicine because he was unfit because of all the drinking.
Also, if he is telling her how much to give to patients, and he's a drunk,
Yeah.
maybe she's just trying to keep the supply filled.
What do you mean?
Like the supply of arsenic.
That's why she's buying it.
That's why she's buying it, because he probably would get upset with her in a drunken rage. Goes, where's all this arsenic? So she's got to keep that up after giving the patients arsenic, because he would be forget because he's blacked out drunk.
I feel like, I mean, she's just a woman back in those days too, so she probably can't stand up to him.
Right.
So yeah.
So
I could see that.
If she doesn't want to get yelled at and possibly smacked around, because that's how it happened back then, keeping that filled and following directions and stuff. All right, cool.
Yeah, maybe. The grand jury came back with 2 indictments of first-degree murder, and she was taken into custody. She was held in the Franklin County Jail.
First-degree murder, though.
Yeah.
That shows intent.
And I don't see that at all.
They're random murders.
'Cause
if there was a connection of like all of them doing something that wronged her in the past,
right.
Sure, intent.
Some motive.
Right, but there's no motive.
Like, it didn't even say anything about, like, you know, their pockets being emptied out.
Yeah.
Or nothing being taken from them, nothing like that.
Well, even then, if it was that wouldn't be first-degree murder. That would be like second or third-degree murder, because it was trying to do a crime, and then a death just happened to occur. Mm-hmm. And then you have accidental manslaughter, if that was even a thing back then.
Yeah, that's another thing. I don't know how the system worked back then. Maybe there wasn't...
But even...
Maybe you didn't have to have intent to get first degree back then.
I don't know. You would think with... Because what's that Latin phrase of motive and stuff like that? Like
modus operandi?
Yeah, like you have to have a motive in order to be convicted of murder, right? In the first degree. So if you're just following orders, right? Like the doctor said, hey, well, you're going to do this. And she did that. And people died because she listened to the doctor. Mm-hmm. Then that's not motive. If anything, that's accidental manslaughter.
And the worst thing I can think of is maybe I'll give them a little extra arsenic so that I can nurse them back to health and I'll be the savior in this situation.
Which would still be manslaughter.
Right.
That wouldn't be
that's
murder.
Not, exactly.
Because it was an accidental death. It was negligent.
Right, very.
But not first degree murder, though.
Yeah.
Whew.
Bertha did admit to giving arsenic to 3 people. That's all she admitted to.
Okay.
When she was asked why she gave arsenic to Brinley and the Schammel boys, she stated I did it to ease their pains.
Which would have been what they gave it for back then.
Right, exactly. So she only admitted to giving it to 3 people, and when they did some more autopsies, all of them had arsenic, but the doctor was giving that too. So we don't know if she's telling the truth and said, I only gave it to 3 people.
Or she gave it to all of them.
Yeah. She took arsenic herself. She took arsenic as like kind of like a beauty product.
Okay. I'm sure a lot of people probably did that.
Probably. And
They had some really harmful chemicals in a lot of their makeup back then.
Yeah. So she would give it to herself. So I feel like she didn't feel
know.
like it was going to actually kill anyone.
Especially since a lot of people did not understand arsenic back
Yeah.
then. Or a lot of chemicals back then.
Yeah. So they asked her, why do you take arsenic for your health? And she said it keeps her looking young and it helps slow her rapidly beating heart.
Hey.
And then at trial,
Valid reasons.
at trial, she was actually found not guilty by reason of insanity. And she was remanded to the state hospital where she remained until she died of stroke in 1951.
When was this court case?
I don't have the actual year of the court case. We might have to look
Let's
that
see
up.
if I can find it. Might be on this one here.
Some people speculate that her first husband was poisoned by her too.
Well, yeah, you can make those speculations, but so it seems like it was roughly in 1928 to 1929. Now,
That's a long time to be in a state hospital.
yeah. Now, if we've been to our hospital near us in St. Joe, and we've seen what that would have been like. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Oh.
But God, they just really claimed insanity on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
A lot of different things.
Well,
Like when we were at the museum and we saw the sign-in sheets, and they were like, well, she just didn't want to listen to me. She didn't iron my shirt this very particular way.
Yeah.
She's insane.
yeah.
But I mean, in this case, there were deaths, so I can understand a little bit, but at the same time, like, clearly she'd had no idea, and she wasn't aware, and she was just following commands
Yeah.
and trying to help people.
That's what I think.
I-
But there is so much speculation about whether she meant to or not, and there's no way to prove intent. And I think
No.
that's why they found her guilty by reason of insanity, because it's like she shouldn't have put the extra arsenic in there because the doctor already gave the medicine, but the doctor also sounded like he was negligent too.
They both were, but at
Yeah.
the same time, like from my understanding of what the case is, just based off this conversation, she probably didn't know all the patients that he was giving arsenic to.
Right. You never know.
And so
I feel like there wasn't a very good
yeah. And
communication, not good.
And if those were the only 3 that she was giving arsenic to, they could have been the only 3 that he told her to give arsenic to. Because remember, like you said earlier, he left a note and was like, hey, here's some arsenic, take care of business. And if that was the case, and those were the only 3 that she gave arsenic to, that's solid reasoning of, I did it for this. This is what the doctor told me to do.
Yeah.
And so if she didn't give anybody else arsenic, an exception to herself for her own beauty things, like, back in the day, I hate the fact that, and I love the fact that now we have guilty,
Innocent until proven guilty.
I was going to say guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if
She would have never been convicted
no.
now.
Nowadays, there was a reasonable doubt.
Well, and they would have had the doctor on trial now, too.
Yeah, they would have had both of them.
But back then, it's like, oh, he's the man. He's correct. He's a doctor.
Yeah. And,
Let's just blame it on this little lady.
And I think that in reality, it would have actually been more on the doctor than on her, because that kind of stuff nowadays is locked up. And who's the only person that would have access to it? The doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
So even if she was the one that did it, it would have been.
It must have been so easy to come by if you're just like, oh, I need to take
Drugstore.
it to keep young and
Yeah, or kill the rats.
kill my rats.
It's a friggin' drugstore. Because was it a powder that they added water to or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because you could put it in the capsules like they did in the Swope murders.
Yeah, that's true. And like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure if you buy rat poisoning nowadays, it's gonna have arsenic.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. Or other worse things. But like, in my mind, in my heart, Big Bertha, you're innocent. You're innocent. And you dealt with.
She was just trying to help.
Yeah.
And didn't know. I mean, back then, and she wasn't even a trained nurse. She was volunteering.
Yeah.
She was like.
She was letting them in her home.
Yeah.
She had a make-shop hospital there.
Yeah.
And for all the souls that went into her house, and she helped, and all the souls that passed away there, that she probably was heartbroken that she couldn't help. Like, even if you were heartless, 17 people, like, come on, you would change up your.
You would think. Yeah, you would think. Like, oh shit, maybe I'm doing something wrong here.
Especially if you're a high priority person in the community.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have somebody to take the blame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then all of a sudden, but pneumonia for her husband?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like arsenic.
No, it doesn't to me
So
either.
it's like, how. I personally feel like.
People just want to put all the blame on her.
Yeah, they do.
And I feel like that was used against her. I mean, to make her look bad.
But here's the worst part: if she were a man, what would they have actually even attempted to look into these cases?
Yeah, maybe.
Would she have even been found guilty?
Yeah, I don't know.
Doubt it.
Yeah.
Because they would have been like, "Oh, you're trying to save lives. You're a hero." But because it was a woman at that time period, they needed somebody to blame.
And that's another thing that they mentioned in the book was that's probably why she got sentenced to the state hospital instead of prison, because even like she wasn't able to testify because she was obviously sane. And everybody that spoke to her was like, no, she is completely sane. She's, she's got all of her senses about her. And so they didn't want her to testify. And
The prosecution or the defense?
The defense.
Okay, that makes more sense because then she would have gone to prison.
Right. And
because they were clearly going to, no matter what, they were clearly going to mark her as guilty, even if she was 100% innocent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so dumb.
That was the one thing that saved her was pleading guilty by reason of insanity, or not guilty by reason of insanity. But that to me is like, I'd rather die than go through that, be at the state hospital for how many ever years?
She died in 58.
51.
51. That would have been 28. About 21 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
And sad, just so sad.
Oh, terrible.
So even if she was like one of those people, like I said earlier, who wanted to like make him a little bit sick so she could nurse him back to health and be the hero, she doesn't deserve that.
She didn't even sound like she was one of them.
I really don't think, but
I mean, she was before all these people were dropping dead due to arsenic. When she was married to her husband before he died, like she was bringing people in to heal.
Yeah.
So
it's just a sad story, and we wanted to get into this thinking like, oh, the first Missouri serial killer, and she's going to be heartless. And
I'll be completely honest. When you sent me the list, I was looking at the names and I saw Bertha, and I was just like, we're doing Big Bertha. I don't even know what the story is, but we're doing Big Bertha. I was like, this is going to be a fun episode, and it is. But it's also kind of tragic.
It is very tragic.
But
the book is really good. She tries to be very objective about it. She is kind of suspicious of her. So read the book if you want a really good view of both sides, because she's she's her great grandmother, and so she doesn't want to think that she would do that on purpose, but she just doesn't know because there's not enough proof.
So you want to know some of the symptoms of
Yes.
signs and symptoms. So this is not from a medical journal at all, but it says ingesting large amounts of arsenic can cause symptoms similar to food poisoning with abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, starting within hours, even being bloody, and can cause severe fluid loss, resulting in hypovolemic shock. The heart and nervous system can also be affected, causing disruption to heart rhythms, hence her wanting to start to slow her heart. Heart failure, confusion, seizures, brain swelling, coma, and death. Inhaling arsenic gas, the most toxic form of arsenic, causes a multi-system disease starting 2 to 24 hours after inhalation. Symptoms include gastrointestinal distress, headache, weakness, difficulty breathing, kidney and liver dysfunction, and the destruction of red blood cells.
Wow.
Chronic ingestion of lower levels of arsenic causes visible changes in the skin, typically hyperpigmentation or dark areas.
Oh, so she wanted her cheeks to be rosy.
Yeah, but sometimes hypopigmentation, light areas, or altering areas of each. Some experience general thickening of the skin on the palms and soles of their feet, or small thickened areas. Around 5% of those affected develop light-colored bands across the fingernails called Mees lines. MEES lines. Chronic exposure eventually causes disease across multiple systems, including peripheral neuropathy, numbness and tingling, enlargement of the liver and spleen, diabetes, heart disease, cognitive impairment, and damage to the portal vein. Repeated arsenic exposure also increases the risk of developing several types of cancer, particularly of the skin, lung, liver, bladder, prostate, and blood vessels. Ooh.
I bet that's why she had a stroke.
Yeah. The most common arsenic-induced skin cancer is squamous cell carcinoma in situ, which typically occurs 2 to 20 years after arsenic exposure. So here comes the questioning. With that wide of a variety of different symptoms,
Yeah.
how could they conclude what was from the arsenic
Yeah.
and what was from the other diseases? Especially the cancers.
Uh-huh.
If a lot of those people had cancers and they just tied it to arsenic,
Yeah.
and that was why they were sick?
Yeah, and they didn't exhume all of them, all of the bodies, so we don't know.
And back then, cancer was not very widely known
Yeah.
or studied.
Yeah.
So it's like, were all of these deaths not actually arsenic, but like other deaths from other things like cancers or just strokes happening, or
Right.
just actual enlarged livers and kidneys and stuff from other diseases? Like,
Yeah.
especially if they were unknown at the time.
I can't remember how many autopsies were done, but I want to say it was like 5 or less. Like, so, 12 of them could have been just, random diseases that she couldn't prevent.
Yeah. And then 3 of those would have been those people that she admitted to, but didn't, unknowing that he gave her the arsenic, and then or gave them the arsenic too. And 2 of them could have just been freak accidents of just slightly overdosing on arsenic from the doctor.
Exactly, because he's a drunk. He might have put too much in there.
See? Reasonable doubt.
Reasonable doubt. Poor Bertha. I just feel bad for her.
And she sounded so smart.
And her husband refused to believe that she meant to do that. He was like, she wouldn't do that. And he stood by her side for years and years and years.
How do you get someone out of that system? I mean, I guess if the court put them there, they
if the court
technically...
put you there. Oh, but they did, after a while, they let her go on leave like every weekend to see her husband, which is the sweetest damn thing I've ever heard.
Probably because they knew she wasn't insane.
Right, she's not.
But she had a sentence. That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of the nurses in these medical places were tragic.
Right.
They were pretty chill in some cases.
Yeah. It's
Giving
such
people a
sad
little extra
story.
ice cream.
But I would totally recommend that book because, yeah, it's really good.
Sounds really good.
Sad, but
But
and I feel so bad for her husband too because
yeah, that's so heartbreaking.
yeah.
But she
then-
was at least in her 70s when she passed.
Yeah.
So she
And
lived
she
a
did- yeah.
decent life. And if they knew she was sane, and that she was pretty chill, and that she was actually innocent and stuff like that, they probably treated her rather nice in comparison to the actual
Yeah.
inmates that weren't.
You would hope so. But she might have been one of those people who, because, because she's sane, she might have been refusing treatments that they wanted to impose on her, and then
Yeah.
they have to force her to do it, and then
I don't know, because wouldn't they have needed her husband's permission for some of those things?
Not if you're state ordered, I wouldn't think.
Well, they probably still need to.
I don't know.
Because back then, like, property.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know.
I apologize for my voice. I choked on my own spit before this episode, and I just haven't been able to clear it since. So I am not sick. I'm not dying, but
No, you sound fine to me. Yeah. I don't think anybody realized, but there was quotes around the property there.
oh yeah, yeah, air quotes.
Air quotes. Yeah, we're not gonna. Woo. But yeah, like, I'm kind of happy that a lot has changed when it comes to judicial systems.
Yeah, they're not
They're
perfect.
not perfect.
But they are
A lot better than they
than
used to be.
Yeah, better than back then.
She would have been found innocent.
Yes,
For
totally.
sure nowadays.
Yeah,
One would hope, yeah, given
I hope
people's
so.
intellect nowadays. But
well, and we just don't know, and so maybe she did do it on purpose. I don't know why, but maybe
there would have also been better evidence.
that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we would have more to prove that she did,
Yeah.
because they would be doing autopsies on every single one of them if it was suspicious.
Not only that, but they would have the records of
The doctors would have records of how much he gave, blah 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 blah. But they don't give arsenic now, so
yeah,
that'd be a
probably something equivalent to it. Like opioid or something like
yeah.
that. But even then, like, one of her best defenses would be like, "How did I get the opioid?
Yeah.
Like, I can't just go and get it. Like, it's in a freaking locked case that only he has the key to."
Yeah.
So, like, evidence, boom, right then and there.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be so different if this happened today.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's all I have.
That's all I have.
Well,
Oh God,
it was
we're
a
back.
little bit of a downer, and we didn't go much into the screen looks weird, into the victims, but
There was
I couldn't find a whole lot of information
No.
about it.
yeah.
So, but there was 17 people that died. Very
But
sad.
as sad as the story is, it's a good start of getting back into things. We're
Yeah.
back. We're back, baby.
Not very organized, but we are back.
Well, I mean, I've never been organized. If you could see into my brain, you'd see just the clutter that it's always been.
Yeah, mine too. But got 100 tabs open up in there.
Yeah. I've got like 104 tabs open on my Google Chrome. It's insane.
Chris is always like, "No wonder your phone's so slow." He closes out my 80 million tabs.
Lindsay does
I
the
have to
same.
have them open so I can find them again.
I have so many tabs that it doesn't say how many tabs it has. It just shows a happy face.
Or a sad face.
No, it does the little the dots with the D. Yeah, that's how many brackets I have open.
I don't even know how many I have.
Oh, it's insane. It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
So,
Is this a Patreon one?
no,
Or just a regular one?
regular one. Normal episode.
Normal episode.
Yes. So if you haven't checked out our Patreon, it's patreon.com/history and mystery Casey Pod.
We've got a ton of fun content on there.
There are bonus episodes and all of the normal, regular episodes.
Yeah.
And there's 2 different tiers. You can join for $2 a month, or if you want to be fancy, you could do the $5 a month one, and you would get a sticker I believe it's every 3 months.
Yeah. Very, very fun.
Yeah.
And so there's one tier that's Sinkhole Sam,
Mm-hmm.
and we have an episode on Sinkhole Sam.
Yes, go listen.
And we also have a tier called the Ozark Howler.
Yeah.
And we have an episode on the Ozark Howler.
Yes.
And my first appearance is on that. So if you're still going, well, who is this? Go take a listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the Kansas City Winged Demon.
Yeah.
Is your first episode.
That was so much fun.
That was still my favorite of all of them, I think.
Funny enough, I think that was like maybe the second time I met you.
Yeah. But we just clicked.
We clicked. It was just like fantastic because you work with my wife, and we met at one of those functions, and then I came over and we met at a Lindsay was like, hey, you'd get along with her. And so we went out and got some food. And I was like, all right, cool, yeah. And then you were like, dude, come over and like, let's record. And I was like, okay. Here I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a lot there. It's a ton of fun. And we're going to add more stuff later. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes. And all of the socials and stuff are linked from the Patreon. So I don't have to remember them, even though it's pretty much everything is the same, but it's so hard for me to remember.
There's a lot. Just tons of social media.
Yeah. So also you can email us at historyandmysterykcpod@gmail.com.
Gmail.
And the "and" is spelled out. I don't know if I've ever said that, but I'll link everything. It's not the "and" sign.
That's so cool. Oh, that's funny. Just imagine people trying to email us and they're like, it says the email doesn't exist. They're lying.
But I will, in my description, I'll post the name of the book and everything, and all of our links like usual. Everything will be on there, so check it out.
Check it out.
And in the meantime, stay aware, alert, and alive.
Bye.
Goodbye. Where's my mouse?
I absolutely love how we're just in this ambience of darkness.